Welcome, everybody. The Power Talks for Remarkable Females. My name is Helena de Munk. I am your host, and our topic today is Overcome Overwhelm and Tap into Your Self Leadership. It's one of my favorite topics, and it is one of the favorite topics of my co host today. I am thrilled to introduce you to Hope Paterson, who is joining me for this amazing topic that is impacting or affecting so many women. So, welcome, Hope. I am thrilled to have you here. Maybe you can give us a very short introduction on who you are and what you do. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Helena. And wish overwhelm wasn't such a hot topic, but you and I are going to dive in and make it as enjoyable and empowering as we can.
Absolutely. Let's make overwhelm fun.
Let's make it fun. So I'm Hope Paterson coming live from Quebec, Canada. I am a mother of two and a transformation coach focusing on human potential. And I would say for the past 20 years, I've been working at the intersection of education, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And this means I support people moving through all sorts of change, lifestyle changes, education changes, family changes, career. I really help them to see their unique abilities and activate visions. And I run global think tanks. I am a coach one-on-one for individuals and businesses. And I have an amazing cohort for women called Wevolve that's launching this fall.
You are a multitasker. I love it, and I love it. And to be honest, people also ask me, like, how do you do this? How do you do so many things at the same time and give this calm impression, be present? And this is basically bringing us to the topic. It is about how not to get overwhelmed, how to create this calm insight in order to be able to deal with whatever comes and also manifest whatever you want to manifest. Make choices, set priorities, and do the things in a way that is effective and efficient without having your brain in reptilian brain modus getting you everywhere except where you want to be. So if you want to join us, you are so welcome. We are going to spend the next couple of minutes, I would say the next hour, bringing you stories and examples and resources and tips and strategies. And you are so welcome to share yours. So use the comment box. We can read it online here, and we will absolutely implement it also in our conversation. So we would love you to join the conversation. If you are listening to the replay or watching the replay, you are also very welcome to leave your comments and your feedback. We will monitor it and we will get back to you. In the meantime, also, in case you didn't do so, connect with us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, so you stay in the loop with whatever event we are organizing. And I can tell you, there are quite a few. So stay with us. Don't be overwhelmed by what we do, but just pick what is really essential for you and take out of it what you need in this moment. So, Hope, where do you want to start with overwhelm? What brought you to the topic?
I loved what you said about the reptilian brain, and I really love people. I think that's why I gravitated to entrepreneurship and coaching. And I think part of being a human means that we are hopefully aware of partly how our brains and systems work. And I've been geeking out on that in the past few decades. And without getting too technical, I really started to explore how old our ancient brain, our primitive reptilian brain, is running in the background. And I would say that it has evolved very slowly over many years. And this reptilian brain has been designed to do one thing at a time, right? One thing at a time. And fast forward now, 2024, there's no such thing as one thing at a time. And so the reality of overwhelm, that word, even that word triggers people, right, Helena? When you hear
Absolutely.
the word overwhelm, it's like the word failure. It sends people often into a spiral of the visceral feeling in their body that comes up when they
Yeah.
feel too many decisions, too many things to choose, too many pathways, too many options and opportunities. So I work with my clients, and I'd love to hear from you how you help people navigate. I work with my clients who are faced with living in today's world, and there are just too many things for their brain, their old brain that has not evolved to deal with all of these complexities. What do they do? And
Mhm.
it really fascinates me. How about
Yeah.
you?
It's a very interesting concept, overwhelm. Once I heard somebody give a definition that actually I personally really liked. And it was that overwhelm was that you were doubting your capacity to deal with things.
Mm,
So basically, I know there's this outer thing of everything coming at us and life throwing curveballs and so many obligations we have and so many commitments and so many things that are asked from us, especially if you're a professional and you have a business or you have a very demanding job and you have a family and you probably also take care of your parents or elders, whatever. We all know all the roles that we have. And so there's a lot of outer thing there, but there's also this inner thing, this inner concept of what am I capable of? And how do I build resilience and grits? And how do I build, I love to work with strategic agility. How
mm,
do I build resilience? And for me, what has helped me, because we've all been there and we all still are there, because this is like a constant
yeah.
thing in our lives, and one day is not the other. But for me, what just a second. Yeah, okay, I think we were off.
There you go.
So yeah, let me go back. So for me, what worked is being very much aware of vision, mission, values, what is really important for me, and keep that as my North Star or my compass. And so, whereas there's like all these things that sometimes become this big mass in my head or on my chest, I
Yeah.
just sit down and I say, okay, what is really important here?
Yeah.
Instead of letting it become this big ball, I start slicing. And you cannot slice if you don't sit down. And a lot of people, if they're in overwhelm, they're in overdrive. They just go without reflecting, they stay in that reptilian brain instead of trying to work into their prefrontal cortex, where we have
Love
creativity, where
that.
we have options, where we have possibilities, resources, connection with others. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is how I look at it, and also how I work around it with clients. Yeah.
Well,
Does it
this
make
is
sense?
something I definitely want to dive into a little bit later, the value compass, because that's something that I get to with clients, and I think a tool that you and I could definitely share with people. You also mentioned taking a breath or a pause or stopping.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing to mention is that overwhelm, the word, the concept, it's not a thing. It's caused by our thinking.
Exactly.
When I understood this, Helena, I was like, stop press. What? Somehow my brain, my old ancient brain had manufactured this that overwhelm was outside of me as a circumstance, as something
Mm,
happening to me. When I switched it to, oh my goodness, overwhelm is my thoughts and how I am responding and reacting sometimes
yeah.
to all of the things happening, all the decisions I need to make, all of the overwhelming stuff. And even that pause to reframe it, and I invite those listening to really stop and think, just take that in for a minute. Overwhelm is not something external outside of you, it is your thinking, it is how
Yeah.
you are responding to the things in your life. So it's really incredible to take your power back in that way.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
so, if we're thinking about thinking as the source of overwhelm, there are certain kinds of thinking that lead to overwhelm, if I may share. These are some types of thinking that I've really noted in my clients. And maybe some of you can just check in with what do you tend to towards most. So, the
Mm,
first would be black and white thinking. You know what I mean? Thinking in extremes when it's, if we can't handle all of it, maybe we should just not handle any of it. It's overwhelming, so I'm just going to go into black and white thinking. Or should thinking, should, my mom says, she puts these air quotes, I should do that. And it's our brain setting expectations for ourselves. So we judge ourselves on these false assumptions. Others can do it, so we should too. And this really stops us from being motivated, as you mentioned. The third is perfectionist thinking.
mm,
oh, this is just,
Oh,
we focus in on the little details and we lose sight of the mission, of the overall bigger goal. We stop moving in any sort of productive way and we feel swamped. It's exhausting. Our capacity kind of leaks everywhere, and that leads to overwhelm. And the fourth, I would say, is something that I resonate with, or at least for much of my life, is people pleasing. So instead of thinking about what you have to do or want to do, you end up with a long list of everybody else's priorities. Does
yeah.
anyone resonate with this?
Oh
Your
my
work,
gosh.
your kids, your parents, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
So overwhelm in these, if your thinking goes into any of the black and white, the should thinking, the perfectionist thinking, and the thoughts that come from people pleasing, we end up in a spiral, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Hope, I resonate with all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that most of you that are listening in or watching this are resonating with all of them, or at least some of them. This is so obvious. And it is also something that women are a lot more
Too. I would.
vulnerable to get into than men, because we have this perfectionism, we have this people pleaser, we have this is basically something that is, yeah, in our DNA. I'm exaggerating now, but this is very common. The important thing here is setting boundaries. For me, it is about setting boundaries.
Mm,
What am I going to allow in my life? Who am I going to allow in my life? What happens if somebody is yelling very loud for my attention, and with the should haves and the could haves? And it is setting boundaries. So this is about also, it's not only resilience, which is a very important one in terms of bouncing back, but it also is become aware of who is impacting you and why, and how to push back. And
yeah.
especially women, and especially the pleasers, are very reluctant to push back and set those boundaries towards others. And then the perfectionists are so reluctant to set the boundaries towards themselves, because we're not only talking to outside boundaries, we're also talking to the communication we have with ourselves and the things that we allow or don't allow ourselves. And this has to do with perfectionism. It also has to do with time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
these things are very important to develop. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I feel boundaries are essential. I would also say that to get to that stage of setting boundaries and making these key decisions, I don't know about you, but I needed to understand why I found setting
Mhm.
boundaries so difficult. And just to use my own self as a guinea pig as a story, growing up, I grew up in England, I grew up in North America, I spent time in Asia, and I didn't really have a lot of women in my life who were setting boundaries in a really strong, clear, communicating, kind of positive and confident way. I love my
Mhm.
mother, but she was not great at setting boundaries. And so when I became a mother and had a career and was surrounded by conditioning that was like, be it all, do it all, I didn't even know how to start. And
Mhm.
I think it was when my nervous system completely shut down because I was so overwhelmed. I was trying to do it all. That my body went into, my nervous system went into a total freeze. I don't know if anybody out there has done any exploration on their nervous system, but this autonomic nervous system running on the background always is always assessing whether or not you're safe or not. And so
Mhm.
if you go into this thinking of overwhelm because you're doing so many different things, because you have never learned through other people teaching you or through modeling, this is a common pathway for many women. Are you also finding that with women that you work with, that they get
Yes,
to a point because they haven't had it modeled? They hear the word boundary, but they don't know what it looks like or feels, and they hit a nervous system wall and they freeze.
absolutely. Absolutely. You are so right to say that we don't have role models. We don't have enough role models to do that. We just push and push the things until our body tries to keep us safe by just stopping everything. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
and then we often go to the numbing or the dealing with the freeze response.
Mhm.
Pick your path. It could be overworking. It could be over exercising. It could be overeating. It could be watching Netflix constantly or being on your phone, shopping. We
Mhm.
all have our way of numbing and buffering when we feel this
Mm.
response
Yeah.
come up. Do you have any experience with that, of going down that pathway and realizing, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
this,
absolutely. The thing is that I am very lucky to have coaches. I've always have coaches.
yeah,
So I always kept the pot open to be vulnerable and to discuss things like that and situations where I felt I was going south with my coaches.
yeah,
And we need that support
yeah,
because make it feel here, and that is absolutely not our intention. I'm very sure that is not your intention either, Hope, that we have to do all these things alone. Absolutely not. Because having resources and having a community of support and also have a coach or a mentor
yeah,
helps you to put light on that shadow side, to feel supported, to feel sponsored, to feel seen in
yeah,
that situation, and to have people that help you to reframe, refocus, redirect the situation so that you can start building your compass or your pathway in order to deal with life, I would say, in a different way and make very conscious and intentional choices and decisions. That has
so
been
glad
my
you
love.
brought that up. I'm so glad that you shared that. That was my light bulb moment in my early 30s.
Mm.
What led me to coaching was
Yeah.
that breakdown and that feeling of complete and utter empty capacity. And so I did start seeking out coaching, started seeking out support in community, one on one with amazing coaches in many different dimensions. And it put me on the path to supporting others because I thought it can be so lonely to do this by yourself. So,
Yeah.
how can I extend my own experience, my own tools that I'm now gathering as best I can throughout my experiences and share it with other people? Um,
Yeah.
because action is really what we do to overcome overwhelm.
Yeah.
We need to act. And
We
sometimes,
need to.
like, if we're just on our own, it's difficult to act. But if we have
Mm.
people in our corner, then they are likely to help catalyze and instigate that action.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that we tend to forget. Even either we, I would say, if we feel that overwhelm, we freeze, like you say, or
Mhm.
something we go in, or sometimes we also go in overdrive
Yeah.
because we feel that we cannot afford go into freeze, but
Yeah.
we're not being effective and efficient, and we're just completely depleting us until our body says stop again. And then sometimes we have the burnouts, we have the very bad and heavy responses of our body that are not like to overcome in 1 2 3, because sometimes I always see that women are looking for support once they are at that level, and that's the level where coaching is not capable to help. There you really need a therapist, you need medical support there in order to, because you have been basically without judgment, damaging your body with that situation. And that has to recover first before you start with coaching to see where you want to go and how you can go there and how to make those choices and decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or unfortunately, I have been in a number of coaching groups with women, leading them. And it's really inspiring for women to understand through the experiences of other women sharing, because they might not be that aware of their own, what they've been doing in their own life. When they hear the stories of other women
Yeah.
reaching burnout or explaining or articulating what they've been doing to manage or overwhelm or burnout, then they see it for the first time. And the look on their face of, oh my goodness, this is what's been happening to me. I feel seen, I feel heard. The term we often use in my coaching group is sister speaks for me. It's like when a woman speaks the words that you have had trapped inside of your heart and you haven't even known how to express it. It's
Mm.
like often immediate tears. It's like an emotional release of, oh my gosh, how could I have gone through so much?
Yeah.
And we are able to go through a lot. We're
Yeah.
remarkable beings, human beings. And I'm so passionate about getting women together. And thank you for your work, getting women together to start talking about these things openly
Yes.
so that
Mm.
our sisters can speak for us so that we can start practicing this from our own mouths and taking action with the support of people like yourself, like myself, the community you have around you. It's essential.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, hope we have Vinita Mungia.
Okay.
Welcome. I guess that's something that somebody that you know.
Yeah.
And she is saying that paying attention to our nervous system is so important. Absolutely. And trusting what your inner voice is telling you. Absolutely. If you hear her, because sometimes we can't even hear it anymore. Inner
Yeah.
voice or inner wisdom or intuition. Yeah. What's your view on that, Hope?
Anita is such an amazing example. Since she popped on, I'm going to use her as an example because we all like real stories. But Vanita is an incredibly talented principal of elementary schools.
Mm.
She's a leader of so many of the parent community, of the students, of the teachers and educators in her community. And I think it was so important for her to find her own voice and to find her own center of calm amidst the chaos that can sometimes happen, especially in an organization like a school. And
Mm.
once she started to tap into that, there was this amazing ripple effect all around her. There still is. And she is literally sister speaks for me when she speaks out about finding that calm as a principal. Other principals switch on and they say, I can do that too. Wow. Thank you. Yeah. She actually coined the most beautiful term, which is great for overwhelm, which is vitamin me. And vitamin,
Oh, that I love that.
isn't it
Yeah,
amazing? Vanita, this is yours. Vitamin me is, I think, just another beautiful way of saying tend to yourself. And everyone's
exactly.
vitamin me is different. So your vitamin
Mm.
me might be lots of exercise and outdoor nature. My vitamin me is a bath and my book and coming back to myself in a quiet way after being out
Mm.
and coaching all day. So yeah, Vanita, thank you. Totally agree. Keep doing what you're doing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, vitamin me. This is an amazing one. You should like IP that in some way because it's very special and it is so clear what we mean. It is about self-care, and I know there's a lot that has been said and written about self-care, and sometimes it feels we should do self-care for the
Yeah,
sake of self-care. I believe we need to attend to ourselves. There's so many. I know this is anecdotic, like you cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot save somebody in the airplane if you didn't put your mask on first.
yeah,
Things like that. This is all so obvious for everybody, and yet I see that we deplete ourselves. And it is about really listening to your inner voice, but also to your listening to your body, listening to your heart. What is it that I need right now? And it is about being open to receive. Because one of the reasons of overwhelm also is that we are always ready to give. We are always like outbound. What do we have to do? What could we do? What should we do? What is expected from us? And we are working in that direction that we even have a problem receiving. We have a problem receiving gifts, a problem receiving compliments, a problem receiving some rest, some peace and calm. We have a problem of really nourishing ourselves in the presence of somebody who has that calm. And it is very important to keep that equilibrium and to, I don't like to use the word balance, but it's important to be aware of how this is something that is in all directions, and then that if we go only in one direction, which is something that we very often do, we
yeah,
just deplete ourselves. And
yeah.
finding the time for a walk or for reading a book, we just do nothing. How many women do you know who can sit there, do nothing, and not feel guilty about it? I don't know a lot of them.
I
And I
don't, I
just
don't know.
really,
And we talked about this in some of our coaching cohorts, and the word permission came up.
oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And the word permission, and we had many of the women admit, and I don't know if anyone listening ever gets this feeling, but you're waiting for permission outside of yourself to be able to stop
Yeah.
and do something for yourself. And so you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life because the
Exactly.
permission's never going to come.
Mm.
Unless you are your own best advocate and you are responding and listening, as you said, I use the word body detective. If you're listening in Am I depleted? Am I almost burnt out? Or is my body feeling really tired? You can give yourself the best medicine, the best vitamin me. Nobody else can.
Mm,
And I like your idea of if we're always moving in one direction, we're going to deplete ourselves. It is a flow. And sometimes the way I relate it to a client who just says, I can't give back. I don't know what it is. I feel badly. I flip it around and say, wouldn't you like to help somebody? And so when you're asking for help, often people feel needed. They feel valuable. They feel seen.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
if you're not helping them by never asking,
exactly.
you're not completing the cycle. So they love that to be able to see that actually it's helpful.
Hmm.
It's like being clear is kind. I love that. But it's reframing it so that they feel like, okay, to give is also we need to receive. And that's all going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was doing the manifestation quest with Regan Hilliger on Mind Value,
Mm.
Mind Valley, and she's amazing. And one thing that really struck me was that she said, if you want to receive, it is very important that you have a container ready to
Mm.
receive,
Mm.
because we're giving and we are in action and we're doing things, and then we receive and we don't really know where to put it. And so she has this amazing visualization exercise, and actually we can do this, we can just prepare ourselves through visualization, guided meditation, to create that container.
Yeah.
And it for me, like for my big manifestations, it's a lake. It's a beautiful lake with white swans and surrounded by beautiful trees and flowers. And so it's calm and big, and it's just laying there, and it just can absorb everything that is coming. Or it could be like a treasure chest that is ornamented with diamonds and emeralds and whatever. So I would say also keep that vision of a container for you to receive,
Mm.
because sometimes we literally don't know what to do with what we receive because
Yeah.
we're so used to giving, we have no container for receiving. And that is such a, for me this is gold, and I want to credit Regan Hillier for that, because she brought this as a concept, and I think that's an amazing concept, to have a container to receive.
Oh, I'm gonna
Very few women have that. How does that land with you, Hope?
I love it because I see women of all ages doing that with so much success. To tell you another story, I'm working with a woman, she's in her 70s. I have a few clients that I work with in their 70s, moving through a huge transformation in their 70s, which for me, I'm in my late 40s, is so inspiring to see at every age and stage. There's always change, there's always new decisions, there's always new
Absolutely.
circumstances, and how it relates to creating a container to receive. This client is moving from one state to a new state, to a completely new environment, new, no, doesn't know anybody there, needs to set up new work in her 70s. And she has spent so much time visualizing the landing, visualizing the space, the
Mm,
feeling, what it's going to be like. And she's done this many times over her life, so she knows it works. She's got that muscle. And so
mm,
beautiful trust in creating that space to receive, that she's jumping into so much uncertainty at a time in her life that sometimes people aren't that agile to change and move everything in their lives. But because she's been building it for decades, Elena,
yeah,
it's so inspiring for me to see. I want to make sure that all of us women at all ages keep working that muscle, keep
yeah,
keeping that container ready to receive, no matter what age or stage you're at.
absolutely. Absolutely. Age is completely irrelevant. I love to see how, especially in the US and Canada, I don't see it that often in Europe, how women and men are not, I would say, caught in the system of retirement,
Mm.
which is for me, it's really being caught in a system. And I will talk about that another time, about breaking those boundaries. But I see so many people starting their own businesses, doing amazing things at 65, at 70, at 75. And I always say, you go, girl, because this is age is irrelevant. It is about energy, it is about vibrations, it is about what you still want to manifest in your life and how you want to contribute, how you want to be relevant in the world.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, I would say age and wisdom go together. It is about experience. It is about having done so many things, have so many experiences that help you to stay present with whatever, whatever works. But even if you don't have it, we can trick our brains. We can absolutely trick our brains because our brain does not know the difference between the real experience and the imagination. So, in order to prepare for something, and also when you feel overwhelmed because you're scared, because you feel not prepared, because you don't know what to do, what I always do myself and what I also do with my clients is visualize. Just imagine that you're there in the success version
Yeah.
of that event, of that new step, of that challenge that you're going to have in a couple of days or weeks or whenever. And imagine yourself being successful and just visualize it with all your senses, what you do, how you do it, who is around you, and you're practicing. There has been research that people who were very attentive when they were watching, for example, the instructions that the stewards and stewardesses give on the plane in order to what to do when there's a calamity. So when you have like already some brain practice, not that you have to start panicking on a plane, but that there has been research that people who have been prepared mentally or who have prepared mentally and through visualization got out of situations a lot better than people who were afraid to even think about it. So if it's like your first public speaking job, if it is traveling to another country where you don't know anybody, if whatever it is, visualize it
Yeah.
and you will just see the overwhelm float away because your brain does not know the difference between the reality and your imagination. And that's a bad thing sometimes,
Yeah.
but we can use it as a good thing also through visualizing. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. I am a highly visual person
Mm,
and I practice that regularly. I would say that for a portion of the population who have not worked their muscle of visualization or imagination as much, or that's just not how their brain operates. I found when I've asked clients to visualize, some people push back and say, it's too big for me to go there. I'm overwhelmed, Hope. Don't ask me to
mm,
visualize because that's just too far for me to stretch. You got to break it down for me. I think for some people who find the jump to visualization right away, I start with something I call CDC. It sounds like the Center for Disease Control, but it's not. It's constraint, discipline, and consistency.
mm.
So,
Yeah.
really, it's like starting with a constraint or a limitation of something you put on yourself that simplifies your life. So you're overwhelmed. I have
Mm,
many women who are like, it's school time coming and I've just started a new job and the children are at school. And when will I make time for myself to come back and give me my vitamin me or to calm down and take that pause to listen in? I can't, I'm overwhelmed. So we start with a constraint. And really, it's something that you can constrain safely. And I ask them to think about their values. What do they want to focus on? And so, for example, is for me, my morning's sacred. That's the constraint I give. So I wake up a little bit earlier. If my days are so full of all the things I'm doing and I'm with my kids and I don't want to compromise on this and that, I wake up a little bit earlier or I just push my stuff later. And I have this constrained, beautiful time for myself, for my
mm.
vitamin D in the morning.
Yeah.
And the discipline part is I don't just do it once and then it's that was good. I am disciplined about it. I say I'm going to do it every day,
Mm,
Monday to Friday, every single day. Some mornings it's tricky, but this is where the boundary setting of the why you set boundaries. You say to everyone ahead, I'm going to be doing this thing, just so you know. I want you to respect it. This is valuable to me, and I'll be with you for the rest of the day. People who have little kids, this is really good practice for them to tell the kids that I need my time so that mommy or your dad has their time to recharge their battery. And then Consistency is, so you're disciplined, but it is to show up with your purpose consistently
Mm.
for week after week. And I often ask my clients to sign up to do something with CDC for a month.
Yeah,
After that month, Helena, the feeling they have about that is the opposite of overwhelm. It is like they have taken steps that have empowered their lives. And I've
absolutely.
got people text me being like, CDC forever. I'm going to CDC all over the place. But
I love it.
like a lifeline when someone's overwhelmed, then when they've got that lifeline, then I find now you can do some visualization, even with people who have found it difficult before. Like visualize, see what happened to you after you made that space. Sometimes
Mm.
space in the morning, if they've been doing it for a few weeks, then they have, as with meditation or taking a pause, they have a different brain space to
Yeah,
actually.
they have indeed, they have the mental space to do it. Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah.
Yeah. So CDC, your life.
CDC, I love it. CDC changed your life.
Do you do anything? Do you ever follow anything? And when everything in your life feels it, your thinking is that it's overwhelming. Do you come back and do anything that you make a plan or you constrain things? Or you said you set boundaries. What do you
To
do?
be to be honest, I'm this CDC as a concept. I'm using this. I cannot say that it is that I'm unaware of it because I started practicing it when I moved from Belgium to Spain 3.5 years ago. I was so full of ideas and plans and dreams, and I came here, and 3 days later, we had a big confinamiento. There was a lockdown.
Yeah.
Just fell. And at that time, I was anxiety also after a very hard period in my life. And so I was like, at that time, I was overwhelmed. I was also like panicking. What is going to happen here? Because everything that I planned for was impossible for the next 2 years. And so I did start to develop this self care. And I have to say, there have been periods where it was a little bit like out of my focus. But what I do, and I still do every morning, is I make my walk with a dog. Even if
Mm,
I don't want to, there's somebody asking for it. But I also do my meditation and some exercising, and I have something. Sometimes it changes. There's sometimes like for the moment I'm very into putting my angel and ancestor cards in the morning, my oracle cards. So I ask a question and I just have my cards and I read it and I meditate on it. So I have 45 minutes at least in the morning that are vitamin me. I love that, in order to prepare for the day. And actually, there's okay, sometimes it doesn't happen because of unexpected things. And then there's the next day. I'm also very kind and mild with myself if something didn't work out, like for once,
right.
because my intention is to do this every day.
Yeah.
And it helps me so. It's so important to do that, to build that resilience muscle, to build that bounce back capacity, and to be present in whatever you're doing for the rest of the day. It has such an impact on my energy and vibration for the rest of the day. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet. And I would really be keen to hear more about value compass. You brought it up, and for me, it's when we do come back to ourselves,
Yeah.
is knowing what we value and why. And
Exactly.
for me, I do spend time with my clients individually and or groups to support them in coming back to what do they value. It's not what your mother values or what your father values or what your school told you to value, but what do you value? And
Yeah.
it isn't also just a word like integrity or respect or love. We dig into what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
What does it
Exactly.
mean to you? Not them, you. And it's so powerful for people for women to come back to their value compass.
Yeah.
Talk about giving you meaning and purpose in your life. So when you have
Absolutely.
this value compass and overwhelm is thinking, not circumstances, and you can come back and check with yourself if to a community that makes you feel good or you feel good about around them as one of your values and you want to participate in this belonging community, how does that affect the way you make decisions or move through your life?
Exactly.
So you
Yeah.
have this like beautiful process that all comes from within as opposed to waiting for permission outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to add, Hope, that this value quest is something that very few people do. And we are not aware of our values and what is really important to us. And the
Mhm.
thing is that, and this is also, of course, a reason for overwhelm. The thing is that, or if our values are triggered,
Mhm.
basically most of our emotions are related to our values or to people that have been, how do you say in English, offending our values or touching our values.
Yeah.
And what I see is that about values, like indeed giving them meaning. What do they mean for you? How do they show up? How do they impact your life? And then also your emotions. What is it that you are feeling?
Yeah.
And what has triggered these emotions? A lot of us, we don't have language for that.
Yeah.
And so helping women, helping clients to build that language so that we can talk about it, so that we can go deeper, that we can bring these things to the surface in the open, into the light, because we can name them is so important, because we can also feel overwhelmed because of all the emotions that come up and we don't know how to place them. We sometimes don't even know what emotion we are feeling.
Yeah.
And so this is so important to do this work and to find a coach or somebody who can, or find a community of support that can help you with that. Because overwhelm is, we can do a lot there by just creating this awareness and this meaning giving and making it, bring it in the open and have conversations about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, it's not something we have to do alone.
No, and it does feel like opening a treasure chest when you take
Yes.
time to stop and actually tend to yourself and ask yourself, what do I value and why? And sometimes it takes a while to dig it up because you realize that many of what you thought were your values are not actually yours. They're other people's, whether it's
Exactly.
your conditioning, your education, people around you that influenced you. There's no blame here, but
Mhm.
it's super empowering and exciting to peel those off and see what's underneath. Oh my gosh, I am uniquely me. What I love, what I lean into, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And when I've discovered or been with people when they're discovering their value compass and leaning into it and really filling it out for themselves, they feel so excited to do more
Mm.
in their life. That's
Yeah.
when the idea babies start coming up and they realize
Mm.
that decision making is going to be much easier with this in their pocket because the decision making comes with such purpose and clarity, which
Yeah.
when we have that, the capacity that we have as humans, it's like we move all the decisions that don't make sense anymore. We're like, oh, maybe we don't even need to make them anymore.
Exactly.
But when you remove all those decisions that have been like sitting on you like a backpack because they don't line up with your values and they don't even make sense, you're not even sure where they came from, your capacity explodes. So you've got more energy, you have more ideas, you have more empowerment and self leadership. And this comes back to our beautiful topic of how can you be a self leader? You do
Mm.
need to know
Exactly.
what matters to you and why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's such an energy boost. And it brings us back to that question that people sometimes ask me, and probably also you, how do you do this? Where do you get the energy? It is so clear to me
Yeah.
that first of all, my energy is dosed and it's very effective. Because it's so clear to me what I want to do
Yeah.
and who I want to be and what impact I want to have. So there's things I just say no, I don't do them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And other things I can do it without it costing me energy, because I'm in flow.
Yeah.
And that is because I know what is important to me, what is value for me, and also of course for the people that I want to impact or that I want to work with. And you can do so many things without feeling overwhelmed because it's just clear. It's clear,
It
because
really-
the overwhelm is because there's all this fog and all these clouds in your head, and you have to go. You're in the driver's seat of a car and in on a highway full of fog, so you're scared. You're feeling insecure. You're not feeling safe, and this is draining your energy.
Yeah. I wonder if you ever get, um, sometimes with clients, they will push back on the idea of when they're not used to really flexing their decision making muscle.
Yeah,
It's gotten flabby because they haven't used it that much. One of the
exactly.
main obstacles, it's not always the main one, but one of the main obstacles I just want to bring up in case anybody has this floating in their mind right now is, yes, but even though I know that decision's right for me, what if I make that decision, it's the wrong decision, or I fail at whatever it is that I made that decision? And I'm worried about that. So maybe I don't want to make that decision. I'm not, even though I know it's the right decision, I'm scared of failing, or I'm scared that making that decision won't be right. And that's a fascinating place to be, because then you get into that stasis, that overwhelm feeling again, because you're not making a decision. And all failure is basically information. And
Mhm.
that word, like overwhelm, has really been badly branded, I might say. Like failure is just such a crap word. I encourage my clients, I encourage friends, my kids to build your failure tolerance. Build it.
Mm.
Lean
Yeah,
into failure, find your edges, and make those decisions so that you're like, oh, I know I needed to make that decision, but maybe I need to tweak it a little bit or move it over there.
yeah.
So the fear is removed, or at least isn't such a huge obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Absolutely. I know that I experience that sometimes with myself, not often, but also with clients. And what I recognize is when you bring that story or that example, what you say is yes, but.
that?
Yeah. And so what I often do is this very simple and so impactful exercise. We agree not to use the yes, but,
Mm-hmm.
and we agree to use the yes, ands.
Mm-hmm.
And we agree also to look at the paradoxes, because what we are born and we grow up in a linear system. It's yes or no, it's right or wrong, it's good or bad. And this is basically so not us. It's like you're introvert or extrovert, you're either or. That's not true. Sometimes I feel introverted and sometimes I feel extroverted, and then they create new labels for that. For me, it's about trying to get away from the dualities, but also trying to embrace paradoxes and understand that we can be both of things. I
Mm-hmm.
also understand that we can be successful and we can fail, and
Yeah.
understand that we can be brilliant and imperfect at the same time. And that is okay, because everybody is. There's nothing wrong with that. And this, of course, again, is like mindset, is belief system. And that's why we also need to be supported and to be sponsored as women, as individuals, as humans. It is so important to have, not only to have your coach, your mentor, but also to have that community of support, people that have your back, like-minded women. I think what I see in in life and in what we are doing, Hope, is people are looking for experiences and they're looking for community,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much information available and it's not helping us because we don't know what is the best information for us. It's so much, but more than that is we don't know how to integrate it, how to embody it. And
Yeah.
for that, you work with a coach and you work with a community.
Yeah.
And so this is how I would say work around that or go through that, because the only way through is literally true, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. The being in the presence of embodied sparks of women who are going through it, doing it,
Yeah.
showing what's possible in front of you. There is no better way than
Yeah.
learning that way. No better way.
Exactly.
And also women at different ages. I love to get women of different ages together. I think there's something primal and so utterly connecting when we get
Mm,
together in a really safe, nourishing container with women of all different ages and
yeah,
stages. It doesn't have
absolutely.
in our cultures, wherever we land. I think I've spent lots of time moving about the world, living in all different continents. And when I've had the chance to really be in multi-generational female cohorts, whether it's like cooking with all different women
Yeah,
ages, or like just having a ceremony or a fire or connecting, it's no words are necessary. The
yeah,
learning happens through osmosis, through energy, and I believe
absolutely.
you can do that even online. I've been experimenting. I'm sure you have.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
We can complain about Zoom all we want, but I witnessed that it is possible to create
it
that
is.
energy.
Yes, absolutely. I've been doing it as a coach and facilitator, and I also had the pleasure to experience it as a participant. It is absolutely possible. And I love what you're saying because I hope that when I grow up, my grandparents lived in the same house. It was like in Belgium, we call it a kangaroo house, which is where the grandparents live in the same house but separate. They have their privacy. And I had that experience a way before that was like something that was common sense. And I
Right.
also had a little sister that was 15 years younger than me. She's my soulmate. She still is.
Really
So
did
I
that.
had basically, I grew up with four generations even in my house. And I grew up in a very small town, and it was normal to be interacting with
Yeah.
and also to help older people and to think of that as something very normal in your life. I think that we miss that right now. I see initiatives in order to restore that in new ways of living, in new living and housing units. But this is a very important thing. And I love that you also do that in organizing groups to work with and to interact because absolutely we can learn so much from each other in all directions, in all
Oh yeah,
directions.
it
Yeah.
doesn't go one way. Like you were saying earlier, the flow doesn't go one way. All of it is in a
Yes,
cycle. The sooner we see that and bring it from the natural world into our lives and our relationships, the better
exactly.
for all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. What I'm working on, and we have no idea how this is impacting us and how unconscious we are about that. But we are in so many linear systems and
Mm,
so many linear thinking, which is not a feminine way of living and thinking. But it's there, and we don't even question it anymore. I start questioning everything. Everything I see is my first question is, how linear is this and why and how does it serve us? Most of the time it doesn't. And then it's like, how can we get this in a flow state rather than in a linear state, which is a very interesting concept. And I love to brainstorm with other women about that because I don't have all the answers. I just sometimes have this feeling of unease, like, what is this constraint again? Who thought about doing it like this or bring it like this? And it's become a system. We don't even ask questions about it anymore. We enter it, we put our children into it, and nobody asks questions, and it's not good for us. It doesn't serve us at all. And so I think we need to break
maybe,
free.
maybe we can do it in a natural world setting because that's even more, it sparks it, that
Yeah,
connection. What I think we do it
absolutely.
in the natural world. I know you have
Absolutely.
retreats and things outside and in nature, so
Yeah.
I applaud you for that.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly where we can do all these things outside these standardized linear ways of acting and having to do things. And I'm so happy to meet other women like you. And I'm so open to meet. So whoever feels resonance with this, connect with us, talk to us, bring us the joy of your ideas, of your inspiration, because we are all role models and we all have this capacity to create. This is so important. For God's sake, we're women, we create children. We have this capacity, this innate capacity to create other things,
Yeah.
I don't even want to call them systems, other ways of being, other ways of interacting, other qualities of lives. And it's time. It's absolutely time we do this. Look at the world. It's time. It's time to show up. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Catherine, thanks for the hearts. That's encouraging. Thank you so much. Yeah. We're at the top of the hour, Hope. As I said, this time is going very fast. And this is not only for what we do here on the Power Talks for Remarkable Females. time is going very fast. Time again is a concept that is brought into our lives, and that I'm not sure if it is that useful or as useful as we think it is. But I'm pretty sure that we brought very interesting concepts, and I'm sure that we touched some buttons, and that we brought. Hope you brought some gold. You brought some really. You brought some nuggets in order to. I would invite you to work with it, to just let it land, to think of it. What is really relevant for you? What can you use right now? If you need support, if you want to interact about this, connect with us, contact us, send us a message. We are very open, as I'm sure that you can see that we are committed to bring this to you and to the world. So use that, use those channels, use those opportunities. And yeah, I think with this hope, there's, yeah, I don't know if you want to conclude with something like one learning that you absolutely want to share right now.
Well, I would just like to say that it is really when you start to let the light in of knowing how much power and self leadership you have, just one tiny little spark of light at a time. And when we get all of those sparks together, like in a community of women, wow, do we shine brightly. And I encourage all the women out there to find women, sponsors, coaches, anyone who you feel that chemistry with, you feel like you're coming home to. There's something there. And I encourage you to follow that thread and spend time with them, spend time with yourself in their presence, and so much magic will unfold. What a pleasure it's been to spend time with you, Helena. Thank you so much.
Likewise, it was wonderful. And I saw some feedback here that also shows that people are resonating with what we bring. And that's the whole idea. So thank you so much, Hope, for a wonderful session, for a wonderful episode. And for everybody that is listening in or listening to the replay or watching the replay, thanks for being with us. Thanks also for being open and to let this come in. It is so important. We're here for you. We have your back. Just connect with us, connect with other women, because we are so powerful together. And that's what the world is needing right now. So thank you so much. See you next time and take care. Much love. Bye-bye.
Bye.